Hey guys, welcome back to 2020 MMA. We're going to be taking a look at the upcoming cards this weekend. Both of these cards actually are coming up on Saturday. Very exciting fights. Really, I'm actually looking forward to a lot of these fights, and we're going to be taking a look at some of them. The first card is going to be UFC on ESPN 24, Curtis Blades and Junior Dos Santos. And of course, the Bellator card is headlined by Julia Budd defending her featherweight title against Chris Cyborg. But first off, we're going to take a look at the UFC card because I want to go a little more in depth with that. Three fights specifically I want to take a look at. The first being Montel Jackson and Felipe Colares. Now, this is going to be a great fight. Mainly, I think, because it's just going to show off Montel Jackson's skills. Everyone, I think, remembers the McGregor card in that late call-up. Odie Osborne and Brian Kelleher. Maybe you stepped out to fill up your drink during that fight, but it was a very quick fight. Kelleher had the submission. But this Montel Jackson guy actually submitted Kelleher in the first round. Even though he's coming off a decision win in his last fight, it was still domination, and I still think he's going to dominate this guy. Colares, not much of an impressive record for himself. I've taken a look at his most recent fights, both of them by decision, nothing crazy. I'm going to take Jackson for this one. And, of course, Arnold Allen and Nick Lentz. Now, Arnold Allen was supposed to fight Josh Emmett. That would have been a crazy freaking fight, but unfortunately he got injured. So here we have Nick Lentz filling in. And it's actually a pretty good fight. Nick Lentz is going to be the veteran coming into this fight, but Arnold Allen, he's obviously coming off that win over Gilbert Melendez. And even though Gilbert is, running on fumes nowadays, he's not the same fighter he used to be. Arnold Allen really just showed that he was in another class of his own. And I think this is going to be another testament to Allen's skills. And if he can really put away Lentz in this fight, it'll really be something to put on his record and push him, further into the top 15, maybe even the top 10. Maybe get a top 10 opponent next fight. Who knows? And the main event of the undercard is actually Bevan Lewis versus Daquan Townsend. It's an interesting fight, actually. Both these guys are coming off losses. Lewis is actually a contender series guy. A lot of contender series guys are getting a lot of love recently. So I don't know. I think it's just a matchup to see, where these guys stand. I don't see the loser staying in the UFC for very long, but we'll see what happens. I don't really have a prediction, mind you, for this fight.
Do it! Just do it!
But if I really had to be forced with it, I'd have to take Lewis on this one. I know he's coming off the 2 losses, but Daquan, I actually remember seeing his last fight, wasn't too impressed, so I'd have to give the fight to Lewis. And moving on to our UFC main card, starting off, the first fight is Jamala Hill and Darko Stocic. Now, I think this is a prime example of the UFC trying to boost their contender series winners. I get it. Hill's 6-0. He's on a crazy winning streak. He's undefeated, obviously, and he's coming off that crazy knockout in his, contender series fight. And Stocic here is coming off of 2 decision losses. Not looking good for Stocic. I can see them trying to set up Hill for, a flashy knockout to start off the main card. And I think that's actually what's going to happen. Usually the UFC sets it up pretty well, but Stocic could come out and surprise everybody. Don't count him out, but I'm still going to give Hill the nod. Going to give him first round TKO. Moving on to the strawweight division, we have Hannah Shockwave Cyphers against Angela Overkill Hill. I'm not going to stick with this fight for too long. Not really impressed by either of these ladies. I think Angela Hill, she's been impressive in her most recent fights. A lot more impressive than when she came off of The Ultimate Fighter. She's definitely improved. But with that being said, I can't see either of these girls running for a title shot anytime soon whatsoever. Hannah Cyphers, I think, has done a little better when it comes to her overall game. But Angela Hill, she's just got this awkward freaking style, and every time I bet on her, she always proves me wrong. So for this fight, I'm gonna go the opposite way that I normally would. I'm actually gonna take Angela Hill via decision. So finally, going into the top three fights of the main card, I'm going to get into some betting lines. First off, for the flyweight division, we have Jordan Espinosa and Alex Perez. Now, mybookie.com has Alex Perez at minus 250, while Espinosa is at plus 195. I can understand this for multiple reasons. Perez actually was looking okay, but he got knocked out against Benavidez. But I think that's more where they're looking at when it comes to the odds makers is Perez's past opponents and maybe the experience that he's going to bring into this matchup. I realize Espinosa is coming off of a loss, and that might actually affect it a little bit too. But I just think this is going to be a good fight overall. Espinosa's got the reach over Perez, but still, I think Perez has that knockout ability, and it's going to be a fun flyweight fight regardless. Whether someone doesn't get knocked out, it's going to be fun. My betting favorite, though, I'm going to have to take the betting favorite here. Alex Perez. I think he's going to do enough to win by decision, but he might even get the knockout. If I was a betting man, though, I'm going to take him by decision. And for the co-main event of the UFC card, this is actually a really exciting fight. I know we were supposed to have Frankie Edgar and Cody Sandhagen on this card, but obviously, as we all know, Frankie had to step in for Korea's card. So we have Rafael Dos Anjos and Michael Chiesa. MyBookie.com has Dos Anjos at the minus 265 favorite, while Chiesa is plus 205 underdog. And this is pretty much why Michael Chiesa, is coming up from the lightweight division, and he hasn't had the same results as Dos Anjos moving up to the welterweight division. Yes, I realize that, Michael Chiesa has been absolutely incredible, but let's take a look really at, his last two wins. Carlos Condit, right? He's, as much as I love Condit, and a lot of fans will too, he's not the same fighter he used to be. So that really isn't much to brag about. And of course, Diego Sanchez being his most recent one. Diego Sanchez is a bully. He's a beast. I get it. A lot of people love him again, but nothing to, say, oh, that's like, I deserve a freaking title shot after those wins. It wasn't anything crazy. Now, Dos Anjos is coming off of that loss to Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is looking absolutely ridiculous recently. But, he's got some good groundwork when it comes to, competition and who he's fought in the welterweight division. He's fought Covington, he's fought Dos Anjos, he's fought, a who's who of guys at welterweight. He has a lot more experience, and I can really see him putting the pressure to Chiesa. Even if it goes to the ground, Dos Anjos has those skills to negate Chiesa's skills. And I think that's why he's definitely the favorite. And I'm even going to have to go with Dos Anjos on this one. I know I'm going with favorites, I guess, galore, but I'm going to have to take Dos Anjos on this one as well. My prediction on this is going to be a KO either in the second or third round. Rafael Dos Anjos for the win, baby. Now, finally, last but certainly not least for the UFC card, we have the main event, Junior Dos Santos and Curtis Blaydes. MyBookie.com has Curtis Blaydes at minus 265, while Junior Dos Santos is plus 205. I find this interesting on multiple reasons, mainly because it's a heavyweight fight, and we all know heavyweights, anything can happen. And secondly, Curtis Blaydes, I know his only losses are against, Francis Ngannou. I get it, Ngannou's a beast. And of course, Junior Dos Santos' most recent loss was a knockout loss to Ngannou. Speak of the devil. But regardless, I know Blaydes is coming off that KO win over, I can't even pronounce his name, Abdurmakidov. That's my try at that. He's coming off the knockout win over the Russian. It was a great knockout, but this is a different beast altogether. We got a former UFC heavyweight champion. We have that experience factor. These are heavyweights. They can last a lot longer than, the flyweights. You can't really be a 40-year-old flyweight and, maintain that speed as with the 20-year-olds. But when it comes to the heavyweights, you really don't need the same amount of speed. And I mean, Olenek is a prime example. Fedor is a prime example. I mean, Fedor has the speed. We all know that. But you get what I'm trying to say. With my point being, Junior Dos Santos has a real freaking chance at making a big upset here. And he could really make a statement to solidify himself being in the top 5 of the heavyweight division. Curtis Blades, I get it. He's looking really good. But you know what? I'm going to give Junior Dos Santos the edge here. I think experience is going to be the young, hungry lion here. And that's going to be my prediction. Junior Dos Santos, either going to be by TKO or decision. I'm going to have to go with TKO, third round, Junior Dos Santos. There you go.
Are you sure about that?
So with the UFC card now out of the way, we're going to move on to Bellator 238, Bud versus Cyborg. Now, there's 4 fights I want to take a look at on this card. First one being the little brother of Anthony Pettis, Sergio Pettis' debut in Bellator, and he's fighting Alfred Kazakhan. I hope I didn't butcher that too badly. It's Armenian. But regardless, this Alfred guy, okay, he was in the Contender Series, got knocked out by Sean O'Malley. We know how good Sean O'Malley was. After that, he won 3 fights in a row in the first round by knockout. Guy got pissed after that. He's taking on Sergio Pettis. It's going to be a fun fight. These guys are fighting actually in the bantamweight division, I believe. And it's going to be actually interesting at 135. Sergio Pettis was in the 125-pound division for most part in the UFC. Didn't do too hot. But in Bellator, I think he's got a real shot. This will be an interesting fight for both of them and see where they're both at. I'm going to have to give, actually, Alfred the nod here. I think he's actually going to pull this off by decision. He's looked so good recently after that loss to O'Malley that I think he's going to really want to prove himself on this main card. Now moving on to the featherweight feature fight, we have Henry Corrales versus Juan Archuleta. This is a freaking sick fight. I'm actually just excited for this fight as a fight fan. But let's get to the odds. Archuleta is the minus 245 favorite, while Corrales is the plus 195 underdog. And I'm going to give Archuleta the favoritism on this one because he's just coming off that title loss to Patricio. That was actually a really fun fight to watch. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. Henry Corrales, obviously coming off of the decision loss in the Grand Prix, featherweight Grand Prix, to Darren Caldwell, which we'll be previewing shortly. But Archuleta is a much physically bigger guy, I believe, than Corrales when it comes to their size. And I can really see this being a knockout win for Archuleta. Obviously, I can see them just having a stand and bang war regardless. I'm not counting out Corrales. I know he's got the skills to stay with Archuleta, but since this is a prediction video, I'm giving Archuleta the nod, and I'm going with him for the dubs. And of course, moving on to the actual featherweight World Grand Prix quarterfinal fight. This is going to be fireworks as well. Oh, baby.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
We have the former bantamweight champion, Darren Caldwell, coming up, trying to get the featherweight title. And he's going to be fighting Adam Borks. This guy is a beast from Hungary. Beast. He is the plus 100 underdog. I have I don't even know. These lines are so close because this fight is going to be so close. We have an actual champion against a great 14-0 up and comer, former champion in Caldwell. I cannot wait for these two fights. I am so excited. I'm sure you guys can tell with my voice. I'm going to have to go with Adam Borks. A lot of people don't know about him. This guy is actually disgusting. I don't know if you guys watched the first opening night, but he knocked out Pat Curran, made him look freaking silly. And I love Pat Curran as a fighter. Big up and comer. Look out for Borks in the future. He's going to be a contender. I'm going to take him moving on to the semifinals over Darren Caldwell. Finally, we get to the main event of Bellator 238. After the crazy Grand Prix, we are going to have Julia Budd defending her title against Cris Cyborg. Now, Julia Budd has been on a tear in the Bellator featherweight division. She hasn't had really much of any challengers whatsoever, but this is going to be a fight where she really does have a challenge. Now, I know Cyborg got knocked out by Amanda Nunes, and, she didn't really look too impressive in her last final fight in the UFC, but hold up a second here, guys. You can't never count Cris Cyborg out. It's like counting out Fedor, saying that Fedor doesn't have any knockout power. Cris Cyborg, I think, is going to be like the Fedor of women's divisions in the sense of like, anytime you fight her, it's a possibility that you're going to get knocked the F out. With that being said, though, Julia Budd has been on a tear. She has looked amazing. She has the confidence now. I think she has built up more experience, and she is going to be looking to solidify herself as one of the top featherweights in women's history, literally. And this is going to be that fight that really helps her solidify that. I know Amanda Nunes is in the UFC and Julia Budd can't fight her because they're never going to do a cross promotion. Dana White would never do that. I understand that. But with this being known, Julia Budd is coming into this fight with a lot of confidence. Now, according to mybookie.com, Julia Budd is actually the plus 335 underdog, and Cyborg is the minus 435 favorite. Is there any surprise there? Really? I mean, Cyborg, we all expect her to knock Budd out. Do I see an upset happening? Yeah, I actually do see it. I see it happening. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I really don't. I haven't seen much from Julia Budd in the past. Like, obviously, she's been demolishing her competition, but it's not Cyborg's level of competition, if you know what I mean. Even though Cyborg is deteriorating and she's getting older, she's still got the knockout power, like I said, and I think she's going to be using it against Julia Budd. She's going to probably play smart, Julia, with her stand-up, keep her distance and not try and get knocked out right away. But I think it's inevitable. It's a 5-round fight. And Cris Cyborg does have good cardio. A lot of people say she doesn't. I don't understand why the hell they say that. She has great cardio. And I'm going to give her the knockout either in second or third round. So those are my predictions for our UFC card, Curtis Blades and Dos Santos, and of course, Julia Budd and Cyborg's Bellator card. It's going to be really fun this Saturday. You can catch the Bellator card on DAZN, and I believe you can catch the UFC card on ESPN Plus, or if you live in Canada where I am, TSN. Hope you guys had a wonderful time. Take care. 2020, 1 and out.